Hey guys, what is up? And today I am back with Broadway grosses, so let's get into it. And Juliet went from 98% capacity to 98% capacity this week, so it stayed the same, going from $1 million to 1,252,394 this week. And the average ticket went up significantly from last week, and once again the show is continuing to build amazing advances, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. A Beautiful Noise went from 89% last week to 81% this week. Not doing as well as And Juliet, but it's not like a $20 million show. Bad Cinderella performed to 100% capacity and $318,478 in its overall gross, with an average ticket of $113 and a top ticket of $297. Not a bad start for Bad Cinderella, but again, that average ticket should be a little bit higher. You would want to maybe be the 140s, 150s, you know, something like that. And 318 for a show of this size, I think I would have liked to have seen 518, 618, and obviously the gross was lower because the average ticket was under $120. So let's see how it does. It's too early to tell its business, but I don't think the show's gonna do well. Funny Girl went from 96.27 last week to 94% this week, but despite the decrease in gross, the average ticket went up significantly, so it went from 1,800,112 to 1,883,332. Any show would be envious of these numbers. The fact that it's doing this good is incredible. Hadestown is managing to maintain its status very well, and did not fall off like I thought it might have. So it went from 99.73% last week to 98.86% this week, going from 745,689 of last week to 866,727 this week, and the average ticket is getting back to the $130 mark, which is awesome. I still think it's going to close this year, but again, it's managed to get through the past 2 months very well. So if you are a Hadestown fan, you can rest a little bit easy, and it is doing slightly better than it was in the fall. And again, if we can get Hadestown over 800K, it's definitely in a lot more of a safer place than, you know, it has been. Hamilton went from 1,722,790 last week to 2 million this week, going from 99% to 100%. Kimberly Akimbo went from 96% to 94%, going from 523,608 last week to 572,801 this week. Not amazing numbers, but again, as long as it doesn't go under 500K, it's fine, and it's definitely building that momentum, and once we get into March and April, and once the Tony noms come out, which I'm assuming this will dominate in terms of nominations, it's gonna do very well. Hold up, you're getting an exclusive. So this is a little pause in the video, because I saw Kimberly Akimbo last night, and I decided to combine the grosses video and my mini review into one video. So here's my review. So first off, I was not planning on seeing Kimberly Akimbo. I was like, you know, this show has gotten a lot of hype, and it's poised to be the next best musical, but I wasn't really interested in it. I need to see it more. I listened to the album that came out like a week ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna go in, and I'm going to see it. I was like, okay, you hooked me in. Now take me there all the way. The score wasn't the best score I've ever heard, but I was intrigued enough and I liked it enough that I was like, you know what? I got nothing else to do on Wednesday night, so let me go and see it. I'm going to say this straight out. This will win Best Musical. I think it will win Best Musical. The only thing that might get in its way is New York, New York, which is premiering next month. But I just don't think that's gonna necessarily get there. Like, that would have to be, like, really highbrow. And I just don't think it's gonna get there. So, you know, the interesting thing about Kimberly Akimbo is it's, you know, definitely following the same vein of, you know, Fun Home, Dear Evan Hansen, and, you know, the musical drama, prestigious Best Musical winners, right? And I honestly think that this musical is a bit different in that it's more of a modern day musical comedy. And by that I mean is, you know, your traditional musical comedy was the producers, right? That's what people think of when they think of musical comedy. But this is a different kind of musical comedy. It has smaller sets. It's literally a more intimate theater and space. It's got a smaller story. It's got smaller stakes, and you don't have like jazz hands and tap dancing and huge, dance numbers. It's got a very modern score with very relatable human characters. And I think a lot of people that aren't into musicals would love this musical, because I think it has enough of that, relatability and humor that can really attract a fairly non-musical theater crowd. And I feel like this film is kind of like Lady Bird. Lady Bird is a great film comparison to make to Kimberly Akimbo. So I just want to give that general note off, is that I think that this is a much more mainstream musical. I just want to give off that note that this, I think, can appeal to non-musical theater fans, because it's not too musical theater-y, and it's not too mainstream enough that people that are big musical theater fans won't enjoy it. I thought that this is definitely going to be a better success than A Strange Loop, mainly because it is a very light-hearted musical. It's a lot more mainstream. It's something you could take not like a first, second grader, but you could, by fifth, sixth grade, you could take someone to see it, and you can take grandma to see it. It definitely has a much more broader appeal. It's a much more simpler story. It's a lot more digestible. So I definitely do think this will make it to at least a year, I think. And especially with the way that Broadway is kind of coming back, I think this show can really work. And again, I think that once this wins the big awards, like Best Musical, I think that is when it will maybe get into the 800, 900. I could see this making $1 million over the summer, truly. I think that I just think it needs that big Best Musical title. It needs that big recognition, and then everyone will check it out, and they'll tell their other friends, and I think this could have a very healthy run on Broadway. It's not like super revolutionary or like transcending. You're not gonna walk out being like, you have to see this show, but I think it will have a good appeal, and I think it will do very well over the summer. I think that the big positives for me was Bonnie Milligan, who played Aunt Deborah. She's going to win the Tony. If she does not win the Tony, it is a crime against humanity. So funny. Maybe one of the best musical theater comedy characters in a long time. The timing, the writing, the substance, the spin. I mean, it was amazing. Like, I want an Aunt Deborah spin-off musical, because this character stole the show and never let go. I was laughing out loud. I haven't laughed in a theater, I haven't laughed the way I laughed at Kimberly Akimbo in a long time. And that goes to the strength of the book. And the book is so funny. It's so strong. If this is a shoo-in for Best Featured Actress and Best Book. Like, the book is the best on Broadway that I've heard in such a long time. I mean, so funny. I mean, this book, I think, rivals Dear Evan Hansen. Like, it is truly a phenomenal book. It is so funny. Like, the characterizations, the investment. I wanted to stay in this world and be with these characters. And, having seen Book of Mormon and Moulin Rouge recently, those were style over substance. And Kimberly Akimbo is just at a different level from those two shows, because Spectacle is awesome. But I could never get invested in those characters. I could never get so invested in that world. And Kimberly Akimbo just showed that there are levels to this, and if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like, if you've seen Book of Mormon and Moulin Rouge, and you've seen this, I think you can kind of get the difference, and that substance really trumps style any day of the week, at least for me. And I prefer that. So the book was super strong. Bonnie Milligan. Victoria Clark was awesome. She didn't give like a breathtaking performance. I thought like Bonnie Milligan gave like a Ben Platt type performance, like revolutionary type stuff. Whereas Victoria Clark was a lot more like subdued and like not in a bad way. Like she was acting well. It just wasn't like a super like emotional like. I mean, she was emotional, but it wasn't. It wasn't as standout as Bonnie Milligan. I saw that Stephen Boyer, who I know from Trial and Error, great show by the way, got canceled too soon, was so good as the dad. I kind of want him to win for Best Featured Actor or Leading Actor. I don't know which category he'd be in, but he was super fun in the part. And I thought Justin Cooley, like, is such an amazing talent, and he was so funny, and he, again, was so in tune to his character, and you don't see that on Broadway a lot. And I was just blown away by how, well these actors knew these characters. And it was definitely reminiscent of Little Shop of Horrors, and how well developed those characters were and how in tune the actors were with their characters. They also have snow in this show, and if you sit in the front row, the snow kind of goes into your face, and it kind of feels semi-immersive, and it was really cool, so that's just a little side note. The weak parts of the show was the score. I thought the score was not the best score I've heard, and normally in musicals, you are excited for the songs, and then you're like, come on, let's get through the book scene so we can get to the songs. And in this case, it was the opposite, at least for me. I thought the score was weak. I didn't think it was super necessary, and you can definitely tell this was a play converted into a musical, because this was originally a play with no music in it. However, there were a couple of standout songs that I really enjoyed, that being Hello Darling, which kind of gave a Sondheim-esque feel, Anagram, which was just a fun poppy ballad, Better, which is just a bop, Happy for Her, which is again a very funny character song, This Time, which is again another fun poppy song, Good Kid, which is again Justin Cooley's voice is stunning, and that's why it's so good, even though the lyrics are kind of a little weird. I feel like the lyrics were purposely amateurish or kind of sophomoric, which worked for the show, but it was definitely a little bit weird. And then Great Adventure is just like a fun, sweet, cute little number. And then all the other numbers are, can't really tell you much about them because I don't really remember them. But there definitely were a couple of standouts. But again, I think the score was the weakest part. And the one con I'd have for the book is the parents. I wish we knew why the dad drank so much and why the mom was the way the mom was. And I don't know if, I don't think it was made clear if the dad being a drunk was because the mom had an affair with the neighbor, and I wish that was explored more. And I think that, you know, the mom and dad say some very hurtful things to Kimberly, like multiple times, and so when they say that at the end of the show, it's kind of weird how easily Kimberly forgives them. And I thought Kimberly was gonna die at the end, which I feel like would have been more impactful, but it would be kind of obvious, so I respect them for not going there. But I wish that we had a scene clarifying. I wish Act 2 was spent really focusing on the parents' perspective of the parents' perspectives on the disease that Kimberly has, and the Act 2 is more focused on them, because the whole play, the whole show, musical, doesn't really give us enough time with the parents' perspectives, and I wish they had, because I think they do care about Kimberly, but I think they want their next baby to not be like her, not because she's a disappointment and they don't like her, but purely because they don't have to go through the heartbreak and the hardships of dealing with a child that will not make it past 20. And I think that was not fleshed out enough, and we're kind of left with this weird sense of like, I just feel like there wasn't a sense of closure with the parents, and so that was the one con I had. And another thing that I loved was when they were skating, it wasn't perfect Broadway skating, them doing tricks and moves. It felt like real people on skates, struggling, scared, nervous, and it's just that raw authenticity, and not these supermodels, kind of like you had with Moulin Rouge, that just made it so relatable, and it really feels like a show for the people. You know, it doesn't seem super high class or highbrow, and it was just a fun, solid 8 out of 10. It would have gotten a 9 out of 10 if it weren't for the score being so weak. Definitely recommend seeing this show, and I call it cute, but like in a very endearing way. And it was just definitely better than Moulin Rouge or Book of Mormon. Now, when you compare it to past best musicals, I do think it is stronger than, and I guess this is a big compliment that I'm going to give it, and I think that's mainly because of the book, but I do think it is a better musical than Hamilton or Band's Visit or Moulin Rouge, and I don't think Strange Loop can compare to it, because Strange Loop is such its own thing. But I definitely do think that's a huge compliment, so definitely go and see this show. Don't go see Beautiful Noise, don't go see and Juliet. 1, you're going to be paying less money for Kimberly, and 2, I think you're going to get a much more substantive and bang for your buck show in Kimberly Akimbo, and we need much more shows like Kimberly Akimbo on the Great White Way. So, that is my review for Kimberly Akimbo. I hope you guys enjoyed, and back to the video. MJ the musical went from 100% to 98%. Moulin Rouge the musical went from 98% to 100%, going from 1,352,806 of last week to 1,590,808 this week. And as the weeks have gone on this past month, the average ticket and top ticket have gone up probably because of Aaron Tibet. This is Moulin Rouge's best week in like years. and it's definitely doing a lot better than it was in the fall, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Is my prediction. You know, Moulin Rouge needs to be doing like 1,352 plus. You know, that's where it thrives at. 200 and 100 is decent, and if it goes under a million, that's when you get into like real problems. 6 went from 993,937 last week to 1,123,539, going from 98% to 97%. Some Like It Hot had its best week yet, almost at $1 million. Well, not almost, but you know, it's getting there, going from 80% last week to 77% this week, going from 828,380 last week to 911,446 this week. Broadway has completely defied expectations. January and February have been some, like, you could say, like gift months for Broadway. Like, this doesn't happen. The business does not do this well in January and February, because those are the infamous slump months where shows fail tremendously, and all of these shows haven't. And that's a good thing, and I'm happy that all of these shows are succeeding, and that they're all doing so much better than I thought. And now that we have gotten past these 2 dangerous months where a lot of shows can close and it can make or break a show, we can start to ease off, because in March and April, people come back, and for the spring and for the spring season, May tends to be a bit of a down month, so that's kind of the next hurdle that we have to go through. But yeah, great week for grosses. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, sub, and comment, and I'll see you next week. Peace.